because when I did it with him, it's like all my older uncles and stuff. And a couple years ago, they were probably in their late 40s, maybe mid 50s. And then I showed up. I was training for Ironman, and I didn't know anything about the race. They were like, "Hey, come do a race." I'm like, "I'm doing Ironman. I can do whatever I want." And I show up, and I'm looking at like they give us like the course maps and the descriptions, and I'm like, "Yo, what the fuck, man?" And they're like, "You're the young buck fit kid." And I'm like, "All right, I see what you did there." So I was like, I'm returning the favor to my wife, and good. She's actually she just got back from like a 10-mile run this morning.
Yeah, she like rock. I feel like every time I see her little Strava thing, it's I ran 20 miles today. I'm like, what the shit?
I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, just hit 50 miles for the week, just. I'm like, Jesus Christ! And I will say, my running career is at a pinnacle too. Today is day 57 of the mile streak for me, and I got all the runs done with the flu. I was at like day 50 on Monday when I started feeling crappy, and I was like, is this it? This is where I've given up. This is where I've quit. And I'm like, it's 10 minutes if I run. I mean, if I jog, it's 12 minutes if I just survive. So like, like when you're sick and you take meds and then your fever breaks and you feel good for like a half hour and you're like, I'm not sick anymore. I save that every single day for my 10-minute run, and I got it done. So
you're a better man than I am, dude.
I heard you stopped again.
Yeah, I did.
How many times you're gonna have to start a new mile streak?
I know.
The amount of times you start the streak and don't finish.
I'll probably restart it more times than there's days in a year.
That's fine.
I don't know, dude. I hate running, and I would just like the days I go to the gym and like I work out and I'm like, what the hell? Now I got to go run a freaking mile and I just did all this workout. I don't know. Like running's never been something that I've ever enjoyed. So it's really, it's a good challenge though. Like, and I'll definitely restart it because I want to complete it. I want to get that done.
But now that you've done it a few times, it seems so simple on paper.
So hard, especially whenever you got stuff going on with like for example, you being sick. Mm-hmm. Me traveling, like full days of travel. You've done that too during your stint. Like it's tough, man. It's to fit that mile in. It's only 10 minutes, 8 minutes, 15 minutes, however long it takes you. It's hard to do that every single day, which is crazy because you're like, what the hell is 15 minutes? But here's also me thinking. I'm like, okay, I gotta get ready. I gotta put my shoes on. I gotta go run. I gotta get home. I'm gonna be all sweaty. I gotta take a shower. I gotta get ready. I gotta do, so it's a lot more than just 10, 15 minutes. But, I tried to match it up with like my workouts and no excuses. I again.
Tara would ask me like, when are you going to start? When are you going to do your run today? And I'm like, it depends on when I want to mentally know that I'm going to be sweating for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But I will say this, bro. I slept with the windows open last night.
Oh, it's the best
Mid 60s here in New York. It like snapped on. We've had a brew. I know we probably say this every summer, but we had a hot, dry summer. And none of those like weird 100-degree heat waves, but like sustained 90s and humid all summer. Yeah. And last night, like I'm talking to my buddies watching the Met game, and they're like, "Yo, did you open the windows yet?" With the squash emoji, and because they know like we're big open the windows kind of guys. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it was fucking 90 degrees today. And you go, oh no, cold front just came through. Open up the windows. And I like went outside of my porch and I was like, oh my God. And then of course I ran upstairs and turned off the air conditioner. And Tara's like, what are you doing? What are you, psychopath? I'm like, no, watch this. And I opened up the windows and she was like, yes.
Oh, it's the best too. I know Portland up here right now, I think it's like, right now it's like 65. And so I've had the windows open all morning this morning. And just, dude, there's nothing better than like, fall is approaching.
Oh, gosh.
You got the crisp air coming in. You're drinking a cup of coffee. Like, dude, there's literally nothing better than like walking into your living room. Your kids are playing. You got coffee in your hand. You're looking at the wife. You're looking at the family. And you're just like, what the hell, man? Like, how's it getting? You got the fall crisp air blowing in. Like, there is no better feeling than that, dude. Flannel season is upon us for you long-time followers. Brad and I love flannel season.
If that, I'm not going to jump to flannel season yet.
We're close to it here.
One cold day. I mean, I'm not getting that excited, but yeah, we are.
Yeah.
hardcore.
Oh.
But I feel like you need to go through the dog days of summer to understand that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's
Like
true.
if we're in San Diego and it's like 65 at night every single night and 75 degrees during the day every single day, they're like 65. That's it. That's every day. Like no, no, no.
Yeah.
You have to be sitting down in the shade, sweating through clothes to understand what flannel season really means, and
Dude,
all the dope things that come along with it. You know,
oh,
I
I
mean,
can't wait.
I was talking.
Portland. Go ahead. Go
I was
ahead.
talking to speaking of things that come along with it, I was talking with Chris the other day, and for those of you that don't know, he's my partner at the brewery. Was my partner at the brewery. I'm no longer involved, but we're still great friends and love it there. Anyway, uh, I was
Up,
like,
up, go.
I was like, how many barrels of pumpkin beer did you make? And I remember a barrel, for anybody that doesn't know, is 30 gallons or so. And it's when you buy like a keg at the store, that's a half of a barrel. So two kegs of beer is one barrel, just to give you some perspective. And it's it's a very annoying beer to make because pumpkin like clogs up your systems. It just things don't go right. It's a crappy beer to make. It's delicious. It's a crappy beer to make. And when we own the brewery, when you make it, then you got to do the pumpkin rims and all this stuff. So when we first opened the brewery, we'd make one barrel, two kegs, and we called it mandatory pumpkin. Like, we don't want to make this beer. There's no rims. There's nothing. It's going to taste like a pumpkin beer. You're not going to need a rim because it's going to be the best pumpkin beer you ever drank. But we know we have to make it. It's mandatory. So we're just going to make it so it's on the menu and then it'll sell out and then we'll never have to think about it again. And that was 7 years ago. When I think the first 2 or 3 years we made one barrel each, and then we made like 3 barrels because it literally was selling out on Friday night.
Wow.
And we're like, and we wouldn't. Oh yeah, and this is the other thing. We also wouldn't sell it until October 1st, which pissed everybody off because I don't know if it's like this around you at the breweries, but around Long Island, you have the Long Island girls that like they start coming around like, "Do you guys have a pumpkin beer?" And don't get it twisted, some guys too, but we'd be like, "Not till October 1st, not till October 1st," and it would sell out. So we had to make like 3 barrels. Anyway, long story longer. He made 100 barrels. He's making 100 barrels, 3,000 gallons of mandatory. It's still called mandatory pumpkin.
Wow.
But I was like, dude, that's a lot of pumpkin beer. He goes, you want to know the crazy thing? I'm like, what? He goes, it's already pre-sold. I'm like, pardon? He contracted out the 100 barrels. Our system's only 10 barrels. So that would be to make 100 barrels, you have to brew 10 times. We only have 10 fermenters. So you can call bigger breweries and they'll make it for you with your recipe. You come in, you work with their brewers, things like that. It's very common in the industry. And so he got an order and he's like, I can't fulfill that. So he contracted out 100. And he's like, and then I still have to make some for the tasting rooms. And we got Warwick upstate, which is crushing, even just destroying Bayshore's tasting room as far as volume. So he's like, I'm probably going to end up doing almost like 200 barrels this. So I'm like, oh my God, one beer, 200 barrels. That's
Unreal, dude.
$6 a pint, guys. You do the math, you know,
Unreal.
he's raking. But that comes along with the pumpkin season. So I can't wait. But
Yeah.
and it's
Well,
good to be back in the studio too, man. I mean, we're 15 minutes in, so thanks for sticking around. But we told you in the first 2 episodes when we were together, we have a lot to talk about, and I want to thank you, Jay, because I was sick and we could have just pushed this week off, and you were like, nope, we have a schedule, we got to get an episode out Monday, and then I'm coming up to you, so we'll get some more, and then boom, I'll be back to work, and things will be we're good.
yeah, it's gonna work out. We said I think it was the first episode or second one back this season was the community, man, of Average Money. It's just It's so cool. The people that reached out, the comments we see on our videos when we post on YouTube are like loving having the podcast back, you know. And this is also something we do for fun, dude. Like, you know, the podcasts don't really make money at all. So like,
Except for our Patreons. Thank you guys
yes,
so
that's
much.
true.
Our Patreons, you guys are literally the reason that we do record because we do have costs. I know
Yeah,
people
yeah,
don't realize that, but like our servers and to keep, we have 109 episodes. So like our server size for anybody that's a nerd, like our server size is getting bigger. And every single time we post a video, it costs us more money to keep the podcast going and the website and stuff. So we do have costs. So thank you.
yeah,
This episode is sponsored by our Patreon. So
yeah.
thank you guys for keeping us afloat. But God, sorry cutting you off, Jay.
No, it's good. No, it's good, dude. Like they're definitely supporting the podcast, and we appreciate it big time. But I mean, really, I don't remember the point I was making. I think just exciting to be back and to being able to have these conversations because like we still have these conversations. It's just you and I that are on the phone or whatever, and they're probably usually a lot shorter. I feel like sometimes too because we don't have the time just to sit down and talk. We got kids screaming in the phone in the background. I'm like, sorry, dude, Brad, I gotta go, and I hang up on you. I got you yell at
No,
my kids or something.
generally, no, that's not true. Generally, we're sitting there talking for like 20, 30 minutes, and one of our wives comes in like, "Are you guys dating? Like,
Yeah.
get off the phone." Like,
Lynn's like, is that your boyfriend? What the hell are you doing? Like,
what two dudes talk on the phone for 45 minutes on FaceTime?
That's true.
I wish my phone did have like an automatic setting where like it was like, oh, it recognized that JJ Buckner's calling and it like automatically records. But maybe we'll have to call Apple and see if
Yeah,
they
there
can
you
make
go.
that happen. But yeah, man, let's give these guys some money talk. What do you have on the plate today? I know you said there was something that you really wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, so you actually just posted something. I mean, I already knew about it because you told me you were going, but you posted something on your Instagram not too long ago of a podcast you were recently on, and I listened to it and I loved it. I also, like I said, I've also talked to you about some background before the podcast came out, but it was cool to kind of hear like the different stories that came out because it wasn't just you on the podcast. There was a lot of people that went on there. So you were at what do you call that? Like, is it a convention or what is that?
I think well, we call it Campfi, or that's what the owner calls it, Campfi. I think it's more of like just a retreat. I think more of a retreat.
Retreat sounds like a good word.
Like
Yeah.
when I think of like work retreats and stuff, what is it? You get a bunch of people together that probably wouldn't get together if somebody didn't organize it and tell them to go somewhere, and you get together and you find out things about one another that you probably wouldn't have known otherwise, and that's exactly what Campfi was.
So you went.
Mm-hmm.
Sounded like from what you told me, you loved it.
Mm.
So I kind of want to get just a quick little what it was like, what you learned and grabbed from it. Is it something you would even recommend? Because here in Average Money, we talk about everything, but it's all stemmed from, I would feel like, finance, like money and financial independence. Because the grand scheme of things, like if you're listening to this podcast, your end goal is probably to be set up with money. I feel like it's safe to assume that.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, that's my ultimate goal with money is to be able to take care of my family and know that when I'm gone that they're going to be taken care of and, that no, I don't have to worry about work and doing all this stuff and the stress of life. And like, obviously there's still stresses, but with financial independence and knowing that your money is working for you and you can live your lifestyle without ever having to work again is not many people get to experience something like that. So tell me a little bit, what was it like? Would you recommend it? And what did you kind of gain from that?
And I'll start with this. It definitely, if one thing, rejuvenated my focus on FIRE. Not even the retire early, FI, financial independence. And when you hear the FIRE movement, financial independent, retire early, right? It definitely, I used to be a huge FI fanboy. And, during my days, people that have been around my channel for a while, that I'm friends with Scott Rickens. We've had him on the podcast before. He had a documentary, Playing with Fire, and in those days it was awesome. But unfortunately, it's a very loyal but small community. So when we used to talk about it on YouTube and stuff, we kind of got to the point where we'd reached all the FIRE people, and then our channels kind of stopped growing. And that's when I started to get into other shenanigans and personal finance. And I had almost not lost touch, but I forgot how important that goal was to me. And I forgot how awesome the people inside that community were. And if there's one thing it did was just like restart. And it's been well over a month. I went on The 8th, I was there the 8th, ninth, and 10th. I went to Campfi Rocky Mountains, and there was two of them. So it was in Colorado Springs, back-to-back weekends. I went to the second weekend. He hosts about 10 a year, I want to say, and he keeps expanding. They're all over the place. Guys, not sponsored. Steven does not know we're talking about this. I'll probably let him know, but we don't have anything to sell you. We don't have discount codes, referral links. This is totally my unbiased opinion. But yeah, I was on the Go Bucket Yourself podcast. I got to speak with three other people: Money Honey Rachel, Dan Sheeks, and then the Go Bucket Yourself podcast. And it was just it was crazy because first we have our expectations, right? I always wanted to go. I had known about them back from when I was really fired up about fire. And one thing led to another: kids, logistics, and COVID and things like that. It just never happened. And I got in touch with a friend of mine, Carl, and he was like, hey, you're going to, Camp Fi's coming to Colorado. And I'm like, dude, it's 4th of July weekend. I can't make that happen. He's like, I think Steven is going to open a second one, Steven being the owner. And I'm like, oh, if he does that, I'm it. Steven? Steven.
Every time I hear that name, I got to say it.
Cable Guy reference, guys. for all you millennials out there, Cable Guy was a funny movie. I guess probably if we watched it now, it wouldn't be that funny. But he's like, I think Steven's going to open another one. I'm like, if he does another one, I'm coming. Like, no questions asked. My kids are of toddler age where they don't need 100% maintenance. I do not have work. My wife does not have work. I will be coming. And yeah, Steven got back to me. Like, I guess Carl reached out to him and was like, hey, I got a guy that needs to speak there. And that person was me. And I was like, holy cow. And no expectations really, but it's kind of nice on their website. They don't give you really a lot of details. It's kind of just like, here's what's going to happen. Good.
I want to say something real quick.
Yeah.
How cool is it, dude? Go back to Brad even 4 years ago. When you were starting this like personal finance journey here on YouTube, and like, one, look where you're at now, but two, when you are the self-proclaimed fanboy of the FI community and stuff like that, and now, dude, you're
I help promote it.
You're speaking you're a guest speaker at Campfi. That's so sick.
It is. It's not. Yeah, like you mentioned, it's kind of like you go from. It's like when the rock band calls you up on stage and tells you get to sing a song with them. Yeah, no, it's definitely. There's one thing to be a member of it. There's another. But here's one thing I learned at Campfi. You can be a public face of Campfi. That's fine. But the amount of people that are doing Fi things that do not have a platform is uneffing believable. And I did not know it because everyone I ever interacted with was people I knew through YouTube, blogs, authors, things like that, right? You go to FinCon, you go to these things. So I was always around content creation people, right? And when we got to Campfi, it's about 50 people. Like I said, they don't really give you that many details. Like, I don't even think they announced us as speakers until like a week before, which is kind of cool because you can't really cherry pick people. But I think the great thing is if you go on and you look at the speakers, I really don't know any of them. And we talked about this about FinCon. How many people are in this space that we don't know about when you think you know everybody in this freaking space? It's like, I don't know. Like, I'm looking at these speakers and I don't know who these people are. But then you start reading up on them, and I immediately got imposter syndrome. On the level of the other speakers as far as their success. But I'm not saying that like I got imposter syndrome where I felt like I didn't belong, but definitely like, what do I have to offer? I know that I had value to bring, but I had to find out what value that was going to be. Because, dude, I can tell a story about anything. At 40 years old, I've lived sometimes the double the life of some people, so I just had to figure that out. And that was the scariest part for me. And me with my terrible anxiety, I get there and I realize that like I'm the last speaker of the week.
Ooh, yikes. That's the worst.
So you get there on Friday night, you check in, and it's like the place we were at was like a Christian retreat center, and they bunk you up. And he's like, "You have any roommate preferences?" I was like, "Nope, just throw me in with somebody I'm going to learn something from." And I got Kobe was great. Kobe, if you listen to the podcast, it was great. Best roommate you could possibly have. The dude slept like a rock, didn't snore, and was out of the room by 4 in the morning because he was an early riser. It was fantastic. And he was more of a wine drinker than a beer drinker, but we had some sauce. I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, no. So it's like bunk style like that, and different lodging options. So different prices for different lodging options, and cafeteria style. Everyone goes and eats together, but you check in the afternoon Friday. Everyone comes in, and then some icebreakers, things like that, like cliche things that are funny, like at learning people's names. Everyone gets a name tag, and then Saturday you wake up and there's literally nothing on the schedule. He gave us a schedule on Friday. You look at it. Saturday's like breakfast at 8, 8 to 9. First speaker is at 11 to 12. Then you get lunch. Then the second speaker is 1 to 2, and that's it. That's the only thing on the freaking schedule. I was like, I thought he was gonna have like an hour by hour itinerary, like when you go to a conference, right? And there's something every single hour. And I'm talking to, I knew some people that were going, like I said, Carl and other bunch of people from Longmont. What's up, Long Monsters? And I'm like, guys, what the fuck are we gonna do here? And they're like, just wait, man. They're like, you think it's free time, but it goes by so fast. And we ended up staying up well past midnight on that first Friday. Like, people bring coolers of beer. Everyone brings like a bunch of snacks. Like there was a room just with coolers and every like trail mixes and everything, bottles of wine. I was like, what did I get myself into? This is ridiculous.
Trail mix? That sounds like a Colorado thing.
Oh God, everyone's ready for a hike. Everyone. It's like, I think I've seen like a meme or something where it's like in Colorado, everyone's just always ready for a spontaneous hike. Like you'll be in the grocery store and it's like, attention shoppers, we are going to take a 30-minute hike. Everyone out of the bill. And everyone just started, like, I feel like that's what it's like. We were up late. We were up late on Friday, just shooting the shit. It was unbelievable. And I immediately realized that my role as speaker was bridging the gap between these super, super financial, like guru people and real estate. These people, their success is unbelievable, unmatched. And my goal, I'm like that middleman, and I'm always that goofy guy. I'm always like having a good time, smiling a lot. Like I'm that guy. But I knew immediately that my talk was going to be about how I used to be somebody just sitting there learning about FI, and the only difference now, 5 years later, is my experience. That's it. I have no formal education. It's just the people that I've talked to along the way and made these huge relationships inside Fire, and just continue to learn. And on that first night, you talk to a couple of people. So then you wake up 8, you go to breakfast, and you're sitting there and everyone's just like, all right, we're going to go do this. I'm going to get a workout in. I'm going to do some cardio. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you're just like, oh wow, people are going to, all right, yeah, like I'll go hike. I'll go for a run. I'll do all these things. And then you get back from a 30-40 minute workout and it's 10. And then you're just kind of like sitting around. The weather was perfect. And then boom, it was 11. And then we had a speaker and oh my God. And then the time went so fast. So the speed of it was just unbelievable for like the little quote structure that it had. And you just found out and realized over time that there was nothing, it had nothing to do with itinerary. It had nothing to do with like them entertaining you. All he did, Steven, I mean, when I say he, was put a bunch of people together and knew that by nature they were going to learn from one another. And not only did I learn about FI, but I learned about what people are doing with it. I learned about different culture and how people handle it, whether some people like to use fire to travel. Some people like it to take chances with small business. Some people like to do it to take care of their grandkids or things like that. Like the wide variety of things that people are doing with FI. And I definitely made like, I think 2 to 3. I mean, I made a bunch of friends, but I made a bunch of friends, like lifelong friends, friends that I still like 2 months later now I'm texting on a regular basis, and that's the type of, I mean, we joke all the time about how you and I are internet best friends, and my wife has finally realized it and understood it now, and shit, our kids are about to meet, and one day, my son's gonna hook up with your daughter, and it's gonna be
Hey,
it's,
hey, hey. I'll
it's
knock Brody on his ass.
it's gonna be quick, and I probably would have fought some of those like lifelong relationships, thinking that it was weird to make internet life, but I went into it knowing like, yeah, like my best friend is from the internet, dude, and if we have a connection or we have things in common or we just had a couple of laughs, I know it sounds like I'm like was like trying to like meet a mate, but yeah, like I made some friends, and I I want to say, just like with courses and things like that, I want to say that I probably never would have, like, I fully intended on paying for it and going and having that experience. Mostly what would have like really led me to do it was because I knew people were going. Like, I'm not adventurous. Like, I would have never went on my own. Like, the only reason I went to Colorado is because I knew people in Colorado that were going to go. Like, would I just randomly sign up and go to the one in Virginia or Texas or Florida? That's really not in my comfort zone. But and like I just I want to justify the cost of things for people. And I think one of the first things I said to you, and I even said this on this podcast, the Go Bucket Yourself, I would pay for it again. I'll go and I'll pay for it. Like,
I want to go.
yeah, we need to go. And, I will shout out that podcast. Essentially, the one that you're talking about, and I can link it in the description or something like that, was at the end, that one of the speakers, Go Bucket Yourself, he had, and his wife had me and Dan Sheeks, which was another speaker. We sat down and we had campers come up and talk about their experience. We did it right at the end of the weekend. And you'd think that these would be generic, or the takeaways, you'd think they'd be cliche. You'd think that they'd all be the same. There's times I wish there was video of this podcast where I'm sitting there shaking my head like, oh my God, yes, I didn't even realize like that was a major takeaway for me as well. And it was kind of crappy because the only downside was this was one of the ones I was falling towards the end of the season. So I think there's only like one or two more left on their schedule. And I'm like, man, if I would have done this earlier, I probably would have been to 3 or 4 of them in the 2022 year. But now I have something to look forward to. And I just want people to know that you should definitely look it up. And especially if you're into fire and you're more into like finding like-minded people. There's one thing, like when you have like YouTube people that you follow, like I know there's people that really admire you and I, and likewise we admire, I formed relationships with people that were just my followers and subscribers. And Aaron Azevedo came and stayed with me for the weekend with Jeff, like those were people that were just subscribers and followers. But it's another thing when you get to like hang out and you get to, it's quiet and there's only a group of 3 or 4 of you, and you've cracked whatever you're drinking, and there's something to be said for that. And I think if you're missing that in life, or if you feel like that, and there was people that drag their like wives and spouses and even kids. There was 16-year-old kids there, 18-year-old kids there, and I really was blown away. I'm not, like I said, not sponsored. When I go back, when we talk about this again, I will have paid for it. I think it's like $450 maybe.
Yeah, I looked it up just yesterday.
If you're a creator, that's a write-off.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about starting a business, it's a write-off. Yeah, I can't wait to go back.
Well, it's funny you said that at the end about like being around people, because I literally I feel like you do this all the time. I was writing on my little notepad. I said the power of being around people more successful than you, but also in similar beliefs. And kind of what I wanted to touch on that first was, I feel like that for me, this is a place where you can be around people who are into the same thing you are. Because for some reason in today's society, and not even today's society, and in life in general, money has always been a taboo topic. It's not something that a lot of people talk about around the kitchen table. It's not something that's deemed to be fun to discuss what you're doing to become more successful, because I don't really know why. I don't know if it's looked at by some people as too egotistical to talk about that, or maybe people are afraid to talk about it because they really don't know what to do next to get to that next level. I don't know. But being around people who do love that and have that passion for finance, for bettering themselves financially, it's such a different feeling that I've never experienced. Now, I've never been to Campfi, but I kind of get the same feeling when I'm at FinCon. Yeah. When and that's more like creator focus, but when you get a group of people that are kind of doing the same thing you are, and so passionate about bettering themselves and their families' lives financially, but also just getting around people who are generally doing a lot better than you are, dude, motivates the hell out of you, man. Because you're and nothing against these people, but this is kind of how I think. I say to myself all the time, I'm like, dude, if these people are doing this, why can't I? I mean, they're no different than I am. They put their shorts on just like I do. You know what I mean? So it's cool to get around people who are always doing better than you, because if you're the best one in the room, you're in the wrong room. And people always say that, but it's so true, dude.
And it's judgment free.
Oh, it's so true.
Now, I'm not going to say there's not people in the FI community that aren't like assholes, but judgment free, man. Yeah. Like people, we talk about all the time. If somebody's doing better than you, they're not generally not going to criticize you. Because they love to teach. Like they got there by learning from somebody, and they love to pay it forward. That's really what it was. And also, too, when you're in those types of settings, you also get to see and allow people to be vulnerable, right? We're stuck in this creator mindset where, we look at Instagram, myself included, and we only see people's highlight reels, right?
Oh, so true.
When we were sitting down, people talked about some of the shit that they were going through. And that was another huge thing, or like the hard days of fire, the sacrifices that they made, the friends they lost, these things that we don't see nobody gets on Instagram like, hey, I'm fire, I'm living financially free. It only cost me 3 friends, a brother, a dog, and 2 houses. Like nobody ever says that, and it was, that was all because too, like I have things that I'm insecure and vulnerable about that I don't necessarily bring to the forefront of the internet. And it was nice to know that I could be myself there, and I could let my guard down, and I could take off the, like, what's up guys, another video, like I could take that mask off for a little bit, not to say we're being fake, but you know what I'm saying. We have to present ourselves in a way. Yeah, we have to present ourselves in a way, which I love this podcast because we never have to do that shit here. But
so true.
But that was also another nice thing, and I got to meet creators that were there that I look up to and that I thought were living the ideal perfect life. And I'm like, oh my God, like they literally are the perfect person. And then they're like, oh yeah, this, that, and the other thing. And then there was this. And oh man, right now I'm really forcing the smile because I'm dealing with this. And you're like, whoa, I understand why you didn't put that on the internet, but I almost admire you now knowing that you don't have this easy, smooth asphalt path, that you're getting your lumps just like everybody else. And that's one thing we don't understand when we see people on the internet, on Facebook, on TikTok. Like you never get to see anybody get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
You never get to see that. And that was another great thing about Campfi. You learned about people like, that had broken relationships, or didn't get along with family members, or had to sell their favorite car because they knew they needed to get out of debt, or just missed things because missed vacations. And, it was just great. It was great. Everything. Like I could go on and on and on about like even the people that took FI slow, and the people that were like, hey man, don't keep the blinders on. Like you got to live life a little bit. It's okay to spend. It's okay to have setbacks. Like it took me 13 years to get to FI. Like, right. Isn't retirement age now like 62? If you retire at 61, you are an early retiree. It doesn't have to be in the 20s. Like everybody makes it sound like I'm 40. and and I'm still trying to like decide if I want to quit my W-2 or not. And yeah, dude, it was a good time. We're gonna go back, and it's I gotta say this, and I don't think I've said this to you before. I don't know if we should necessarily go together. I mean, I feel like you are such a strong personality. I feel like I'd almost like I like hold you back. Like you are much better in those situations than I am, and like I don't want to like I don't know. If we went, I would definitely at least want to be like, yo, like go, please don't let me like forget that I'm here, like because we have our good times too, and I would be too afraid because I think we did this a little at FinCon where like we stick together in such a small group that we all know that we don't
Yeah.
really get to like let the blinders out, and I'm saying this because the people at Longmont did that to me. Like they were like, Brad, not to be a dick, but like go sit at that table.
Yeah.
Like stop sitting with me at every meal. Like I know you're shy, I know you're introverted, but I dare you at the next meal, sit down, either be the first to sit at the table and let people come to you, or sit down with the person that you feel like you'll be the most uncomfortable around.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that they definitely preached that first Friday night. Like every meal, sit at a different table. And you're thinking to yourself, 50 people, there's no way that I'm going to know 50 people's names. As a teacher, I don't even know kids' names till like December. And by Sunday night, I knew everyone's names. I knew their kids' names. I knew their dogs' names. I knew where they lived. And like I said, we could go on about this for hours, but yes, I had a great. It was probably one of the highlights of my summer. It
That's
really
good.
was.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk about that too, man, just because, like, FI is something that's so incredibly important to me. But you made a good point about, like, with financial independence, how people take it with different strides, different ways to get there. And my ways have changed dramatically since I started and found 5, 6, 7 years ago. I'm still not technically financially independent. I mean, I probably have enough coming in from investments now to where it would cover like my basic needs and stuff, but I'm not where I'm like living my lifestyle. Like I want to be like, what do they call that? Coast fi? I'd have to go back and look up which one it is, but like, I want to know like I'm at the point where I can keep like going out to eat and traveling as much as I can on top of paying for all of my other bills. And then I'm like officially fi, I guess. I don't know, but that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making here is it is cool how each person has their own path to get there. If you would talk to JJ 6 years ago, I was probably the dude who was, pinching every penny on top of also trying to earn extra income, very strict budget. I was living a good life, but just not like extravagant, not spending money every week and stuff like that. But that was also because I was in a scenario in life where I wasn't the most happy with my job. So my job that I was working at was not where I wanted to be. It wasn't what I didn't see myself doing that the rest of my life. So like FI was the first thing that kind of popped in front of me. I was like, okay, I got to do this. Thank God it did. But now my path has switched up a little bit. Dude, now I love what I do. I love it. I wouldn't be doing anything else. I love YouTube, even though it has its days lately. I love, the podcast. I love just like working on the internet whenever I want. The software I started, like all this stuff that have just kind of happened over the years is now FI is still my end goal, but it's not something I'm so like just die hard to get to. Like I'm still working towards it, very, as quickly as I can, I guess.
Intently.
Intently. Like I want to buy the rental properties. I'm still investing in dividends because I know that's the end goal. But the fact that I was doing it before to get out of something, now I'm doing it just to have that security there. So that is what was so big for me is, I guess, and FI helped me get there, dude. Like FI helped me find that. Doing the side hustle, turning it into a business, starting a software, and like kind of upping these things. And I also think that stems from finding people out there that I had no idea was even doing these types of things in the real world.
Right.
Like I thought it was foreign to me that people were like starting companies and doing these things. And then the more I get to talk to people like that, and like I said earlier, like getting around people more successful than you, that motivates you and like, holy shit, I can actually do something like this. Like I don't have to stay at my 9 to 5 job and whatever. And so it was kind of a tangent there, but it was, I'm glad you made that point though, because it's so important to understand like what your goals are and how it can change as you grow in life, and you also grow your knowledge in this like kind of financial space. So, dude, I love financial independence. I love hearing people's journeys. We even did like a month dedicated to like was it last May or something like that.
Yeah.
So if you want to
I think
listen to those
I think it was
episodes,
I think it was 2 Mays ago.
holy shit, yeah, I think it was.
It was May 2021.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, yeah, you're right. It was May 2021. So if you guys want to listen to those 5 episodes, we interviewed like people who were already financially independent or were like on their path to maybe we'll have to do that again this year or next year.
That'd be dope.
That was a lot of fun. But yeah, dude, I mean, it's just something that I enjoy talking about. There's also some things in the future that I want to discuss. Like I said, Coast Fire. Saying that right there popped in my head. I'm like, I would think that'd be good to discuss because, like, dude, I forget the difference because I haven't been like so diehard in the space as of recent. I think it'd be cool to go through like each level of fire, like what is there, like a barista fi or something like that, Coast fi,
Fat
lean
fire.
fi, fat fire. Like there's just so many. It'd be cool to discuss each one because every person I feel like has a different spot in that community, and it's also like financially, like so much more benefit comes out of just being financially independent. I feel like you learn more about yourself, a lot more opportunities come to you when you're working towards that. You have more of an opportunity to take larger risk. So it's something that I think is very important. I wish more people were in the community because, as you said earlier, it is kind of a smaller community, but I feel like it's also just with the amount of blogs and content that's out there, I still feel like there's so many people that have been unreached.
Right.
That would find out about this and be like, holy shit, my life has been changed forever.
You find out there's a very big difference between like the blogger side and the author side and then the YouTube side.
Yeah,
And
so true.
maybe we'll bring some of the maybe not just even the speakers that I met at Campfi, that have incredible like success stories, but maybe we'll reach out and we'll get some of them on the podcast. That could be really awesome.
Yeah, it'd be great.
All right, man. You got any thing you want to add to this episode? A little quick one, but I got to be honest with you, man. I do not feel good.
Oh, that sucks. It's probably been creeping on you this whole episode, just getting worse and worse.
Oh, dude. I mean, I dragged myself out of bed and had a couple Nespressos. I'm running on 2 hours of sleep, 3 cups of coffee, and a bunch of hell yeah, man.
That's the worst. We'll get better before you come out here.
Oh yeah, no, I'll make sure I go get tested and everything before
good.
I go.
No, dude, it's I mean, I could go on a long rant right now just about like FI in general, and like how it really has changed my life. But like, I wasn't gonna bring this up, but like I found out last night my grandpa passed away.
All right.
And dude, like it wasn't sudden. Like we knew it was gonna happen for a while. Unfortunately, he had pancreatic cancer, and just it was rough. My dad's been there with him, to kind of like send him off for the past couple weeks. He's been back and forth for months with my grandma and helping him set up stuff. And my grandpa was a pretty successful guy, like in general terms. And I say that because, one, it motivates me to be able to, like, when I leave this earth, to have my family, like, not have, like, death sucks, as we all know.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who's been through and lost a loved one, it sucks. But whenever you get to a point where you worry about the burden of losing someone, but you don't have to worry about the finances that come with it, dude, that's a whole nother power in itself. And I just want to say this, like, not only that aspect, but also with what comes with FI and having that freedom. It's just so nice, like, when you get to that point, because dealing with this with my grandpa is really like, I've always had like a conscious mindset of like, I know death's coming. I try not to look at it too much, but it always pops in my head. It's something I think about a lot, to be honest, but I also think I use it as motivation, because you never know when your last day is going to be here. You never know when you're not going to wake up in the morning. And it's pretty crazy that every night when we go to bed, we just automatically assume we're going to wake up, but that night could be your last night, and you never know.
Mm-hmm.
So to end this podcast, I just want to say this, guys. If you're out there and you're struggling, or you're not happy, or you're doing something that's just not the best for you, think about it. Like, is that really what you want to do? when you were 12 years old and you had all these dreams and aspirations to be a fighter or to go climb Mount Everest or whatever it is, like what's fucking stopping you? Like seriously, think about it. What is fucking stopping you from not doing it? Nothing.
Fear.
Yourself.
Fear. Yeah.
Fear. Like just, the risk of taking it. And like I say this a lot, guys, take risk in life. Work towards, financial independence, but also take a risk and do things that you want to do. And I'll kind of wrap it up there, but dude, it's just seeing my grandpa go and that just reinstates what I just said. Like, I want to try to live the best life possible. I want to spend as much time with my family as I can because that's what's most important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do things with them and make memories so that when I know my time does come, I lived a long, happy life and there's no regrets that I had, when it's my time to go.
Amen, brother. And sorry about your family, and hope you guys find peace with that.
Yeah, we're good. We're all right.
All right, good. All right, guys. Sorry to end in a somber note, but an important note, guys. Like definitely don't take things for granted. And hopefully, my dream is to be able to make a good run and live as long as your grandpa and get to see all the things that you got to see too. So God bless him.
Amen, brother.
All right, guys. This wraps up. I think episode 110. Episode 110. Next time you hear from JJ and I, it'll be a live recording because I'm coming up to Maine. Appreciate it, guys. If you do want to support the podcast, please head over to Patreon. You can look up Average Money there. There's a link down in the description below for a cup of coffee a month. You can help support the podcast as well as join the Discord community, chatting it up in there. That it means a lot to us, and it really does take a little bit of the burden off. We would do this for free, but if we could break even, that's awesome too. Take it easy, guys. We'll see you on the next episode.